Hello, and welcome to the Sony stage at NAB 2025. In this presentation, we're going to talk about a constantly evolving technology that nearly everyone's heard of and nearly everyone's experienced, but almost nobody even knows its full potential. We're talking about artificial intelligence. The term AI is often used broadly. To some, it means instant and automated calculations or extracting analysis from big data. Others think about generating graphics through deep learning of thousands of images, or conducting a more effective search by scraping the vast amount of information on the internet. Neither are incorrect. At Sony, AI delivers the power to fully harness the newest advancements in motion sensing and analysis technology. AI is a cost-effective tool being integrated into our imaging products to help create efficiencies, simplify operations, elevate production values, and enhance audience engagement. New applications of AI-powered technologies are streamlining broadcast and production workflows. AI can support video capture, content and workflow management, even background content creation for virtual productions. Time-consuming and labor-intensive manual tasks can now be managed by AI, freeing up teams to focus on other activities. The potential benefits are seemingly endless. AI is hardly a new area for Sony. We've built AI capabilities into our digital photography cameras for several years. Recently, we've been introducing enhanced AI capabilities like auto tracking and auto framing into our production cameras, offering the ability to follow and frame presenters, or cover positions where it's not safe or practical to have a human operator. At Sony, we're seeing a continually increasing demand for automated camera control and framing in broadcast and production environments. AI offers a viable solution for enabling those capabilities. Our commitment to AI flexibility is reflected in our product lines. From the BRC AM7 4K PTZ camera with AI-enabled auto framing and tracking, to handheld options like the PXWZ200 and HXR NX800 that employ AI for auto framing, tracking, and subject recognition. Houses of worship or news studios often need to move between close-ups and wide shots without having to stop auto framing, change the camera angle, and then start auto framing again. AI-powered camera tracking can facilitate and automate camera operation, whether you're on location or in the studio. When employed in pan-tilt zoom cameras, AI enables consistency and quality that can seamlessly scale to multiple cameras. Users can detect and track faces, prioritize them, and maintain framing even when the subject is temporarily obscured. You can keep a subject always in frame while tracking them in sync too. Plus, you can automate many routine tasks that need to be performed from show to show. Now, we're going to demonstrate many of the capabilities we just talked about. Using Sony's AM7 and FR7 PTZ cameras, veteran professional photographer and content producer Greg Gibson will run through several AI-enabled broadcast and production workflows. Please welcome Greg to the stage.
All right. Thanks for that great introduction, Amber. So, hello everybody. I am thrilled to be here today to talk to you guys about my absolute favorite production tools, the Sony FR7 and the BRC AM7 PTZ cameras. I am very passionate about these cameras, and I really love talking about them. So AI has definitely become a catchphrase or a buzzword around every facet of technology today, and love it or hate it, AI is here to stay. It's evolving every day, and it is going to, over the next few years, continue to impact our lives in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. So I am excited and humbled that Sony has asked me here today to show you guys some of the amazing new features that AI technology has brought to our cameras. So when we start talking about AI, it's really easy to get lost and go down a rabbit hole. As Amber said in the introduction, nearly everybody's heard about AI, but nobody really knows the full potential or the capabilities. So I'm not going to stand up here, guys, and pretend like I'm some expert on AI, because I'm not. But from what I've been told, this is what's going on in our cameras when AI is applied. So Sony has used computer algorithms to analyze data from hundreds of thousands of images, along with other information, and they fed this information into the AI processors on the cameras to teach them how to recognize the human form. Our cameras are constantly scanning a scene. They're trying to gather all the information they can, and they're trying to create a skeletal map of any people that it finds. AI examines every detail from a person's face and eyes all the way down to the knees and ankles. It can even determine small details like which is your left eye and which is your right eye, which is your left ear, which is your right ear. It's also capturing information about colors and textures in your clothes, as well as in the surrounding environment. And we now have not just face detection, but we have actual facial recognition where the camera can remember and prioritize a person's face. And not only that, the camera can identify individuals, so it knows the difference between you and me when it sees us on the screen. So the more information, guys, the camera can learn about a given subject, the better it can perform tasks like autofocus, auto exposure, and auto white balance. But when a subject begins to move, that's when AI brings our cameras to life. So guys, AI doesn't care if you move to the left or the right. AI moves the camera smoothly along with you. And AI doesn't even care if you cover your face. AI just comes along with you because it knows where your arms and legs are. And even if you just stand in place in the middle of the stage and shuffle your feet back and forth, AI doesn't fret or get nervous. It just waits patiently for you to start moving again. AI doesn't care if you bring a friend. And AI doesn't care if you walk circles around each other. So Sony very intentionally calls this technology auto framing. So Vic, I'm going to have you continue to walk. Sony very intentionally calls this technology auto framing and not auto tracking. And this is because the camera is trying to do a lot more than just simply follow you across the stage. It's also trying to create and compose a camera shot in a way that mimics the work of a professional camera operator. It's pretty impressive, wouldn't you guys say? I think Sony probably asked me to speak to you guys here today about this new AI auto framing technology because I often work as a solo producer. I'm not always solo. It really depends on sort of the scale and scope of an event. But I do a lot of corporate event work that's in the 60 to 90 minute range. And often during these events, I'm doing things like running 4 to 6 cameras and managing a live stream and switching an iMag and firing graphics and running PowerPoints. And sometimes I'm even bringing in remote presenters from Zoom. And so I've developed workflows that allow me to do a lot of these things by myself. One thing, I don't do audio. Audio is kind of a different animal, so I never try to do audio myself. I'd usually try to bring a crew with me. But in terms of the video elements of an event, I have developed these workflows that allow me to multitask, and I can do a lot of things on my own. So when I heard about this new auto framing technology, I was immediately a fan because let's face it, guys, one of the hardest things to do with a PTZ camera is to follow a walking presenter back and forth across the stage using the joystick on the controller. It takes a lot of mental energy to do that. It takes a lot of focus and effort to do that. And it detracts from your ability to do other things. But I can tell you guys from experience that this auto framing is great. It works extremely well. I had access to pre-production cameras this past week, and I had one of those events that's like a 2-hour-long corporate event where you've got several people pacing across the stage doing sort of the death by PowerPoint march. You guys ever do any events like that? So I was able to just put my presenter in a little box on the screen, and I put my PowerPoint up on the screen next to him, and I let the camera do its thing. It worked great. In fact, let me show you guys kind of how we did it. So I just went in, I selected my tracking target, I set up a little picture-in-picture box like this, and I just let the presenters walk the entire stage. They could just go back and forth. The camera kept them perfectly aligned in my frame and framed in my little box. And this is really hard to do, guys, just using a joystick on the controller. And you'll see that the auto framing moves the camera very smoothly and naturally and does a great job with the framing. So during that event, guys, I just sat back, I ate a sandwich, and I just let the camera do all the work. All right, thanks, Vic. So when I got into video production, and since I often work as a solo producer, I had considered PTZ cameras before, and I'd never really taken them seriously. My background was still photography, and I was coming from the alpha world, and so from the alpha cameras, I had been spoiled by those large full-frame sensors. I had been spoiled by great high ISO performance, and I had a variety of lenses to choose from. So, and plus, I wasn't going to give up my eye track and autofocus. So to me, PTZ cameras were really just sort of synonymous with poor image quality, poor ISO performance, and with that much greater inherent depth of field in the smaller sensors, there was no real opportunity to use selective focus to create those cinematic shots that a lot of us desire. And then the FR7 came along and it changed all of that. So the FR7 was revolutionary in that it was the first PTZ camera with a full-frame sensor, the first PTZ camera with interchangeable lenses, and it was built on top of the proven foundation of the FX6 and the A7S III. So not only could it move on top of the robotic head, but it's a terrific video camera as well with great high ISO performance. But the real magic, guys, of the FR7 is the ability to use a variety of lenses, including those very fast, shallow depth of field lenses that produce that cinematic look that cannot be replicated by any other camera on the market. So today I'm going to show you guys something that you have probably never seen before in a PTZ camera, and that makes me smile because, come on, how often do you get to use those words? So let me go over, I'm going to pull up the web controller on the FR7. And so those of you that are familiar with the FR7 interface, you may notice that there's a new button up here that says PTZ AFR. And so if I click on that, let me select my tracking target here. So now, guys, we have just activated AI auto framing on the FR7. So Vic, stand up and let everybody see how the camera works. And just move back and forth for us here. So yes, guys, AI auto framing is now a reality for this camera, or at least it will be very soon. It's currently scheduled for release as part of the V3 firmware update. And even better, this is going to be a free update. So it's like getting a brand new camera all for free. Now, one thing that I'd like to point out about what you're seeing here is that you're seeing the FR7 perform auto framing with a 50mm f1.2 lens. So that's what I wanted to show you guys that you've probably never seen before. It's a full-frame PTZ camera that's working at f1.2. No other PTZ camera in the world can produce this type of image. So Vic, I'm going to have you just walk up close to the camera. And so you guys will see as he gets a little closer here, and I'm actually going to pull the shot in a little bit more using my AFR presets. So you guys will see how that background just kind of disappears into a nice creamy blur. And you're going to notice here that even at this razor thin depth of field, the focus stays locked and it doesn't drift. And I'm going to punch this back out. And let's bring Amber back on the stage. And so I'm going to have you guys just walk around a little bit. And so you're going to notice here, again, that razor thin depth of field at f1.2, the focus stays locked on Vic. It doesn't drift. And even if it does happen to roll slightly, it reacquires focus almost immediately. So it's pretty amazing. So that's good. Come right back up to the front for me, Vic. Thank you, Amber. So again, guys, because of the full-frame sensor and the ability to use those ultra-fast lenses, the FR7 can produce an image that no other camera in the world can replicate. So I also want to show you guys again. So you guys remember I said this is a 50mm f1.2 lens, right? You guys heard me say that. And you saw me then adjust the framing. You saw me zoom the camera in and out, right? So let me just kind of roll through that real quick. So I'm going to make this a little tighter shot here using my AFR presets. So I'm actually zooming this lens. I'm going to back it off, and I'm going to make it even maybe a little bit wider. I don't have much room at the bottom. And then I can go over here to this little zoom lever, and I can actually pull this back in all the way. So how am I doing that, guys? We do this through the magic of something called clear image zoom. Clear image zoom is a feature that's built into most Sony cameras that's kind of like a digital zoom on steroids. Using clear image zoom, you can get an additional 2x reach on any lens, and that includes the 28 to 135 PZ. And at 4K, you get an additional 1.5x of reach. So Sony calls this a nearly lossless digital zoom, and I think you guys would be hard-pressed to find any loss of quality in the image here. All right, thank you, Vic. So that's AI auto framing that's coming to the FR7 as a free firmware update in June. So let's give Sony and the engineers a big round of applause. This is a huge new feature set, guys. It's almost like having a brand new camera. And look, Sony could have easily made this a paid upgrade, and we would all forked over money for this, because this is pretty amazing. And I know I would have paid money for it, but they're giving it to us for free, and we're going to have it in a couple of months, and so we thank them for it. All right, so let's cut back to the PowerPoint. Okay, there it is. Okay, so here's a list of features that are going to be available in the version 3 firmware. Out of this list, the top 3 ones are the ones that catch my eye. So in addition to the auto framing technology, the FR7 will now have the ability to use clear image zoom and presets. So that's been a big issue in the past. You could not use presets and clear image zoom together. It's been a huge limitation of the camera, especially for a clear image zoom lover like me. I really like to use an 85mm 1.4. I like to use a 135mm f1.8, and I like having that ability to be able to adjust those lenses a little bit if I need to. And I couldn't use presets with it, so I found that a limitation. So I have advocated for this feature since like day one. And last year at NAB, I finally had the opportunity to sit down with the engineers and explain to them why I felt like clear image zoom was such a critical feature to the function of the cameras. Because look, we want to be able to use these fast, fixed focal length lenses, and sometimes we need to pull them in or out a little bit, and clear image zoom solves that problem. So the engineers listened to me. It took a year. Now we're going to have it, and so I'm very happy. So I hope that'll make you guys happy too. All right, so let's jump over to the BRC AM7. The BRC AM7 is a camera that was born with AI auto framing in mind. It was built from the ground up to have auto framing. The AM7 has a chip on the motherboard that is dedicated solely to AI processing. And as we discussed before, the AI analytics attempts to extract a tremendous amount of information from a scene. And with the dedicated processor, the AM7 can do this with a very high degree of precision. It includes a set of next generation motors and controls so that the AI tracking, so it can take that AI tracking information, digest it, and make very smooth, precise movements. A few other things that sets the AM7 apart: it has the best image quality and the best high ISO performance of any comparable PTZ camera on the market. I might put it a notch just below the FR7 only because it's a 1-inch sensor. FR7's a full frame sensor, so it's not going to be quite the same. But I'd also put it well above any other cameras with a comparable sensor size, including the flagship cameras of some of the other brands. It's got a built-in 20x optical zoom. It's an effective 24 to 480 lens equivalent. It also supports clear image zoom, so it's going to give you another 2x of range at 1080, so that makes it a 48. It takes that 24 to 480 and makes it a 48 to 960mm lens equivalent. So the range on the camera is pretty amazing. It's the smallest and lightest camera in its class, making transport and installation easy. So you see the two cameras right here. So you can see that it's tiny compared to the FR7, and it's also tiny compared to the other flagship cameras. It uses the same color science as the FR7, so it pairs really well with all the cameras in the Sony lineup. So these are some of the features that the AM7 was born with when it launched. But let's see what's coming up. So here are a few of the new updates that are going to make the AM7 mind-blowing. Now, again, these updates are going to be available, well, for the AM7, the updates are going to be available in July. The FR7 update's coming out in June. But the AM7 update will be July of 2025. It's version 2 firmware. It's another huge update. There are a ton of new features packed into here. One new exciting technology is called multi-person framing. And this is something that allows you to tell how many people that you want to keep in the frame. So you can tell the camera to keep up to 8 people in a given shot, and then you can change that on the fly while you're live. So if you need to push that down to like a 2-shot or a 3-shot or a solo tight shot, you can frame those quickly and easily with the push of a button. This might be good for something like a panel discussion where you need a variety of different shots quickly, or maybe like a news desk situation where you need a tight shot of the anchor, and then you need to pull back to a 2-shot of the co-anchors, and then maybe you need like a 3 or a 4-shot when you bring in the sports and the weather personalities. Another exciting new feature is face registration. So the camera can now record and remember faces. So you simply just capture a headshot of the people that you want to remember, and the camera can store up to 40 faces. Now, one of the amazing features of the face registration is that you can also prioritize faces. So you can tell the camera who are the most important people to track, and you can change that on the fly, or it'll change on the fly as people kind of come and go from the shot. Lead room effect is another interesting one. Lead room might sound a little confusing at first. When I explain it, it'll all make sense. So lead room is a feature that where the camera is going to attempt to detect which direction a subject's face is turned. So if the subject is facing to the right, the camera is then going to detect that. It's going to try to apply like a rule of thirds principle to it. So it's going to move the camera over and give looking space in that direction. Make sense now? Okay, so same thing. And then if the subject turns their head in the other direction, the camera's going to see their face turn, and it's going to give looking space in that direction. Two other things that catch my eye in the list here. Presets are compatible with clear image zoom, so that's a big one for me. And a 1.5x teleconverter mode is being added that's going to extend the reach of that 20x lens, especially when you combine that with clear image zoom. All right, so let's take a look at a few of the features. So we're going to need, I need a couple of people up on the stage with me, and let's bring Amber back out. All right, let's go over to our AM7 here. And I'm going to pull my frame out. And we're going to push this over this way a little bit. I'm going to push you guys down that way here. I just want to keep you further away from me, so I'm going to push you guys down that way a little bit. So you guys will notice there's a different menu option here that says number of targets, and that is kind of where we can choose the framing that we want. I'm going to push you guys apart just a little bit, but kind of down that way. Oops, Amber, you come towards me more. Vic, you come towards me more. All right. So you can tell, guys, that the auto framing, that Vic, because Vic has the box, and Vic is this gentleman right here. Vic has the tracking target on his face, and so he has the double box. So that means that Vic is the primary tracking target. So that's the person that the camera is going to try to follow. And so when we change our group size, it's all going to be based on proximity to Vic. Okay, so when we step this down to like a 3-shot or a 4-shot, it's going to detect the people who are closest to him and try to keep them in the shot. All right, let's see what happens here. So I've set this at a 4-shot. All right, I'm going to step this down to a 3-shot. And I'm actually going to make it a little tighter. All right, I'm going to step this down to a 2-shot. And now a 1-shot. And I can even use my preset here, and I can zoom this in a little bit more. Now, I do want to tell you guys, multi-person framing does not like a super tight shot, all right? And so if I tried to pull this back off of Vic right now, it probably wouldn't detect any of the other people. So I'm going to widen that shot out a little bit, and I'm now going to step it back to my 2-shot, my 3-shot, and my 4-shot. All right, so now I'm going to have Amber and Vic stay, and I'm going to have you guys jump off for 1 second. And I'm just going to push you guys over in a little bit. Okay. So let's go to a 2-shot. Okay, so some of you guys say, well, what's the big deal? I could do some of this framing with presets, right? Well, it's not just about the grouping, because what the camera is trying to do is it's trying to actually actively or dynamically change the framing. So I'm going to just widen out to a little looser shot here. And I'm going to have you guys just walk apart. And so you'll see that the camera is going to zoom out. Keep going a little bit. The camera's going to zoom out. All right. And now you guys go back together, a little closer together. And now I'm going to tighten that shot up. And now let me have you guys walk apart again. And again, the camera's going to widen out, and it's dynamically trying to keep that number of people, your preset or your desired number of targets in the shot together. Okay, so let me have you guys go back together again. All right, so that's pretty cool, right, guys? Again, so I see usefulness for this in like a panel discussion, news desk type of situation where you need a variety of shots quickly and easily. So let's talk about another feature. So I'm going to bring our folks back on screen here. Another new feature is face registration. So let's take a look at that. So you'll see this menu here called PTZ AFR settings, and you'll see it's grayed out. And that means that I cannot access that while AFR is active. So I'm going to turn that off. And actually, I'm going to turn it back on. And I'm going to go to a wider shot here. Let me get my 4 shot. Okay. And I'm going to turn AFR off. And I'm going to go to PTZ AFR settings. And you'll see this menu down here for PTZ face registration. So let's see, Paul and Lou. I'm going to pull you guys up a little bit right there. And so in this menu, guys, first thing we need to do is we want to capture everybody's face, right? So I'm going to hit the capture button here. And you'll see now, it might be hard to see on the screen, but everybody that's on there has a little green box on their face. And what that means is that the camera has recognized their faces. And so now we can really easily just add them to the camera. So I click on the face. It puts Amber's face down here in this little box, so I can add an identifier, so I can add her name here. And then I hit, well, if I could spell. I click register, and now Amber has been stored in the camera. And now I'm gonna add Vic. And all right, so we're gonna store Vic's face now, and we're gonna add Paul. Whoop. Nothing worse than trying to type in front of a bunch of people. And we'll add Lou. All right, so we've got all these guys in here, and I'm going to go in. So down at the bottom here where we have our registered face data, I'm going to edit that, and I'm going to make Vic my primary tracking target. So now I have Vic as the primary, Amber is second, Paul is third, Lou is fourth. And another thing that I have to do, another step in this process, is I have to go here into detection settings, and I actually have to turn registered face tracking on. And I have to hit OK to save that. All right? All right, so now we're going to go back to live, and we're going to hit, let me just get the focus here. And then we're going to hit PTZ AFR. The camera's going to zoom out. It's going to analyze all the faces. And winner, it has selected Vic as the primary tracking target. And so we can clean up our 4-shot. So we can combine this with multi-framing. And we can now step that down to a 3-shot. We can zoom that in, step it down to a 2-shot, and then step that down to a 1-shot. And Vic is our priority here. All right, so how about that, guys? Thank you, everyone. All right, guys, so those are a few of the new features of the BRC AM7. Let's give the Sony team a big round of applause. It's a great feature set. Now, after seeing all this stuff, you guys might be wondering what's the best, which camera is right for you. And these are purely my opinions, and your needs might be different from mine, but I would say that you want to choose the FR7 if you want the absolute best image quality. You want the absolute best high ISO performance. You value the cinematic look of the full frame sensor. You want the ability to use a variety of lenses, including those ultra-fast, shallow depth of field lenses that create that selective focus that you cannot achieve with any other camera. Again, guys, the FR7 provides a very distinctive look that's not like any other PTZ camera. And what that does is it allows you to stand out from a very crowded market that is dominated by small sensor cameras. So what are some reasons that you might choose the AM7 over the FR7? Well, you want that all-in-one package. The AM7 is a little faster to set up since you don't have to add the lenses or balance the head. It's a little bit less gear to carry because you don't have to carry the lenses. It's got that 20x built-in zoom, and so that's the advantage of a high-quality small sensor camera, is that you get much greater reach in a smaller package than what you can achieve with a full-frame camera. It's lightweight, it's small, it's portable. Again, you see them side by side right here. So again, the AM7 is much smaller than the FR7 and much smaller than all the other flagship brands. I'd also say get the AM7 if you want the absolute best AI auto framing performance and features. Having a dedicated AI chip on the motherboard, dedicated solely to AI processing, the AM7 offers unmatched AI capabilities. But the cameras pair up so well, why not have both? So I'm going to leave you guys with a little story. Many years ago, back in the early 1990s, I worked as a photojournalist at a very high level. And one day I was covering the White House, and I was sitting in the White House briefing room with another group of photographers, and we were waiting for an event to start. And we're talking about like cream of the crop of news photographers, photojournalists, people from Time Magazine, Newsweek, U.S. News and World Report, Washington Post, New York Times. And you know, back then, those publications were really big deals. And so a camera rep from one of the major brands came in one day, or came in that day with a team of engineers from Japan. And the engineers went around and they talked to each photographer, they looked at our gear, they made very detailed notes about how we set up our cameras and what lenses we used. And they asked us which features were most important to us. And pretty much every photographer there said, oh, I want things like better auto exposure, I want better flash exposure, give me better lenses. But not one photographer there, guys, said that they wanted autofocus. And so, in fact, most of them were very adamantly against autofocus, and I even heard some of them say things like, I will never let the camera focus for me, or a camera will never be able to focus better than I can. And in fact, one of those quotes might have actually been attributable to me, but I kind of laughed hard. I laughed pretty hard at that now about how naive we were back then. And so I don't know if our words really had any effect on their R&D or how they developed features for their cameras, but I can tell you that that particular brand for years excelled at things like auto exposure and flash exposure, and they had some really great fast lenses, but they lagged way behind everybody else in autofocus. And so 4 years later, when I actually switched over to a different brand, specifically because I wanted better autofocus, I felt a little guilty about having said those words. So the moral of the story, guys, is that technology is always going to win. Love it or hate it, technology is going to advance and improve, and it's going to advance and improve faster than you can. And so you can either get consumed by technology, or you can embrace it and become the master of it. The choice is yours, and Sony has given us some amazing choices here. Thank you, guys.